Hey everybody, it's Jeanne here, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to use Twitter in marketing, when to use Twitter, and why actually it's my favorite. I'm going to show you some cool things that you can use Twitter, not only to help you, but also to help your clients. So if you guys are ready to go, let's take a look at it. Let's start here. Marketing with Twitter and a little bit personally, why it's my fave. We're going to start with that. Quick stats about Twitter. I'm a little bit of a stat geek, but a lot of times when we really look at the numbers, it gives us some new ideas and a new appreciation of a platform that maybe we're not always that familiar with. Twitter has 145 million monetizable users. Now, when I was doing a bunch of research, because these stats change pretty frequently, and these are the stats as of the end of this year, they were really clear about their move toward transparency for their users and for their advertisers. And while if you'll look at the number of users when you are going to place ads on, say, Facebook or Instagram, they do not take into account the platforms where people have turned off ads or where they have had their accounts in a way that they don't have access to all the ads in a certain category. So Twitter has already taken those out when they give you that count, and they have 145 million users that are open to all or have the possibility of seeing all of their ads. 22% of the adults in the US use Twitter. And some people look at 22% and say, gosh, well, 70% of people use Facebook. This is true, but take a look at the rest of these stats. The average age of the US Twitter user is 40, and 75% of the people that use Twitter are between 30 and 60. 42% of the people that use Twitter on a regular basis have completed, and they were quick to say, at least one college degree. The general population is at 31% for college period. That's everything from an associate's degree up. They also have an individual income. Again, very interesting to note, because most other platforms will give you information on users by average household income, which obviously a household income of $75,000 is much different than an individual income of $75,000, which is, again, much, much higher than the average US individual income. So the people on Twitter, for the most part, tend to be better educated. They tend to have much more money. And they tend to be in an age group that has more money to spend. The other thing that's really interesting about Twitter is that the average Twitter user spends 26 more times actually looking and interacting with ads than on any of the other social media platforms. I found that to be super interesting. Another fact that, as I've been updating these stats lately, surprised me. There are 2 billion videos viewed every single day on Twitter. Video views. Now, the one thing about Twitter is the videos are much shorter. You're not going to watch an hour of Twitter video like you do on YouTube. So the messaging is different. But video is still very popular on Twitter. There are 6,000 tweets published per second on Twitter, okay? Which is why it has the shortest half-life of any of the platforms. The numbers range depending on whose stats you believe, but the half-life of a tweet is somewhere around 15 minutes. So think about that. I know that personally I enjoy reading Twitter, have not participated in Twitter really actively in quite some time. But at night, I love to scroll through, and I love to scroll through during sporting events or during events that are somewhat controversial, because people on Twitter really can be very, very witty and very smart. But literally every second they're coming, and you're just not going to scroll back normally, but so far to look at a tweet. So, and this is just a little FYI that I haven't put actually anywhere in here, but the whole hashtag phenomenon, a lot of people seem to think that started with Instagram, and it didn't. It started with Twitter. Twitter was the first platform to really use hashtag as a search mechanism and as a way to sort of give a short, cute name to a trending topic. So thank Twitter for your hashtags. Evolution of Twitter. Twitter's been around since 2006. It started getting little popularity in 2007 when the crime show CSI actually used a tweet that they found on someone's phone to solve a crime. So that put it out there in a little more in popular knowledge, at least. When it really, really broke in, though, was on the Miracle on the Hudson. So in January of 2009, when the U.S. Airways plane landed on the Hudson, that news broke on Twitter. Broke on Twitter 12 minutes before a local news station, who actually found out about it by following Twitter, was able to get people on location, taking photos and that sort of thing. But immediately, people on the plane and some vessels that were actually on the river, around the river, were tweeting pictures and giving updates on that. So that's when Twitter really hit mainstream as a way of breaking news and current events. And then, well, we tweeted, I said, because we can. This egg became the most popular tweet of last year. So of this past year. So for no other reason than someone just wanted to do that. So a little bit about how Twitter works, or the evolution of Twitter. Twitter has also been known for some epic brand wars. One of the funniest, or the ones that are most recent, that a lot of you probably have heard about in the last year or so, is when IHOP decided to change their name to IHOB when they were going to add burgers to their menu. What makes this so beautiful is that as soon as they announced, and they built this up on Twitter and announced on Twitter, multiple brands started piling on, and some of them were hilarious. Netflix just tweeted, BRB changing my name to Netflip. But I have to say that not only here, but on multiple occasions, Wendy's, in my opinion, owns the fierceness on Twitter. So someone actually tweeted to Wendy's, so Wendy's, you're going to let IHOB sell burgers on your block, thought you were the, the OG, the old gangsta. And Wendy's, in brilliant fashion, came back and said, we're not really afraid of burgers from a place that decided pancakes were too hard. So I find that to just be awesome. Mad props to Twitter for that. Let's go over some definitions really quickly. Your Twitter handle is just your Twitter name, much like your Instagram name or your Facebook page name. It has an @ symbol, @so-and-so. Your handle is a little bit different than how your name will show up for your actual name on Twitter. And I'm going to take you actually live into my account. Don't judge. Personally, I love it. Read it. Don't go to it. Don't tweet a lot. But you'll see how that works on my account. Twitter Moments is kind of like Instagram. And now on Instagram where you can, on your profile, have the little circles where you can have, put your stories and things in certain categories. Twitter Moments, pretty much the same thing. I'll show you that as well. Twitter does have advertisings. They have two forms of advertising, sponsored tweets and Twitter ads. I personally have had some success with sponsored tweets. Have only run Twitter ads once. It really kind of depends on what you're trying to do, and we'll talk about that just a little bit as well. A tweet is simply your 280 characters. A retweet is you, again, show you my platform, but you simply sharing, as you would do on Facebook, someone else's tweet. You also have the opportunity to add a comment to that. Tweet chat, one of the best things you can do is participate in a tweet chat. And for those of you that are a little bit older, if you have ever been familiar with the old AOL chat rooms or the Google groups, or Yahoo used to have groups, basically it's a forum. So what a tweet chat does, when someone arranges one, and there are literally hundreds of them, some of them are weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, they're just awesome. They give you a hashtag to follow, and I use something called Tweet Chat. There's actually an app that's free called Tweet Chat that will let you sign into your Twitter account, sign into your Tweet Chat account, log in the hashtag that you want to follow, which again is typically the name of the tweet chat. And basically the only tweets that you will see are the conversations going back and forth in the tweet chat that you can then participate in. Twitter also lets you have lists. These are, I think, fabulous. They give you the opportunity to segment accounts basically that you want to follow. We'll talk about that. Talked about the hashtag. Followers are simply the people, again, like on Instagram or Facebook. Instead of liking your page, they follow you on Twitter. And direct messages, very much like, again, what we're used to with Facebook or Instagram. It's just a way someone can message you. On Twitter, in theory, no one can direct message you that you don't follow, but there are some exceptions to that. Uses for Twitter. Twitter has so many awesome ways that you can use it. You can follow trends. This is one of the things that I like to do. I follow Google Trends as well. If you don't, I encourage you every day just to go pop up and see what the Google Trends are. But because Twitter is literally so instantaneous, you can see things trend very quickly. And in fact, at the 2017 SMU Live, which is now BossCon, we actually made that event trend regionally on Twitter. It allows you to develop a list of industry influencers. So if you are new to a certain type of marketing, or you're new to a certain industry, I find this especially helpful if I'm starting to do marketing, even if I'm not doing Twitter marketing, if I'm doing marketing in general for a specific industry that I'm not ultimately, super familiar with, following some of their influencers on Twitter can be very helpful. So it allows you to develop these lists of industry influencers. It also allows you to develop a list of competitors, whether that's for yourself. I've done this often for clients. So people that are in their competitive set, whether it's regionally or whether they just want to follow people maybe in another part of the country that do what they do for ideas, it really gives you an idea to see how they handle customer service. People always announce any new products or services on Twitter. A lot of industry leaders develop their authority by publishing white papers and sort of dissertations on Twitter, linking to those things on Twitter. So it gives you a lot of opportunity to learn about A, people you want to follow and be like, and B, people that you want to keep an eye on and get ideas from. Create your Dream 100 list. If there are clients or prospects that you or your client are very interested in over time developing relationships with, by all means, follow them on Twitter. Track your clients' complaints about competitors. This is extremely important. Sometimes when you have a client or you yourself are trying to figure out how to differentiate yourself or how to develop products and services that people really need, if you watch how your competitors track their customer service, or if you follow, again, the name of that company on Twitter, you'll be able to see if people over time say, gosh, we really love this widget, but the way it's set up, it's much more right-hand friendly than left-hand friendly, or something like that. Then when you're looking at your own products or services or ways that you can improve, or things about your product that you never thought were that interesting that you suddenly realize are things that people dislike about other products, it helps you know some competitive advantages that you can use in your own advertising, or some ways that people respond to the use of maybe a particular industry in general, and it kind of gives you a way to get a little bit ahead of how you will present and maybe respond to those similar issues when they come to you from your customers. Again, going back to customer service, Twitter is great for customer service. Airlines are the #1 industry that receives customer complaints via Twitter. You probably hear about it in the news a lot. If anything happens to someone, they're stuck on the tarmac, they don't like the way someone treated them, they are delayed, they don't like the restaurant voucher that they got, immediately they take to Twitter and almost immediately these airlines respond. So just track a little bit of that. The things that you can use Twitter for very directly as well to start relationships. I talk about this a little bit in another slide, but I actually have really good friends, like friends that I have eventually met in real life that I have been in masterminds gone on location masterminds with in real life through relationships that I started on Twitter in tweet chats. So much like LinkedIn, and I do want to say this, to me, Twitter is very much like LinkedIn in the relationship building. No one wants for you to follow them and you to follow them back, and then 2 seconds later get just bombarded with DMs from them. I sell this, don't you want to buy it? I do this, don't you want to do it? No. Twitter, probably a little more than LinkedIn, is built for that gradual relationship building, but I encourage you to use it for that. Another thing about Twitter that is more prevalent than on any other platform is that typically if there is a CEO, a president, a founder, a celebrity that has a Twitter account, they actually run that Twitter account. So if you see a tweet from, who's someone that I've tweeted with several popular people before, and if you tweet something to them, they're the ones that tweet back. And if you have the people who don't always use their own Twitter account, sometimes are very high level sports figures, which I find interesting. And they will usually say that this account is managed or this is a public relations account. So if you are looking to hear what people really think, or to say to someone, hey, this is I really enjoy what you wrote and this is how it applies to me, 9 times out of 10, you're hitting the top. Use Twitter to build your awareness and authority. Again, comment on other people's tweets, read the articles that they tweet out, make comments specific, again, much like you do on LinkedIn. I have both been given speaking gigs, and I have found speakers for events that I have managed through Twitter. Watching people's tweets, especially going into tweet chats, again, in a specific industry that I needed a subject matter expert in, seeing how they interacted, seeing how they talked to other people, going through those tweet chats over several weeks gave me a really good feel for who would make a good speaker for me. I also have found exhibitors and sponsors by pinpointing people, making lists in certain industries, following certain people. If they had especially if they were announcing new products coming out that year, great reason for me to reach out to them and invite them to be an exhibitor at a particular show that I was running, or a sponsor. It also allows you to build great relationships with the media. I've been quoted in multiple magazines because journalists often will sit in on tweet chats and they will write articles based on whatever the topics of those tweet chats are, and they will quote people who participate in that tweet chat with something that they thought would make a good soundbite. I also want to, going back to events, if you are attending a large event coming up, I've had to do this in previous corporate gigs, and I didn't know tons of people that were going to be at that event. I would start following that event hashtag a month or so before. Every tweet that I would tweet that had anything to do with that industry, it wasn't just a personal tweet, I would add that event hashtag, and ended up having tons of people to meet up with for lunch and coffee and all that sort of thing long before I ever got to the event. So great way to prep yourself for an event if you're a little hesitant or a little shy. I really want to encourage you, and I mentioned it earlier, to take a look at tweet chats. Now, this is something that I have written. I had written for a presentation I did about 2 years ago, but it is as valid today. Again, I had mentioned earlier the app called Tweet Chat. I find that the easiest to use, but there's several others that you can. There are several places, if you just Google schedule of upcoming tweet chats, that will show you. There's a big Excel sheet at tweetreports.com/Twitter-chat.schedule. At one time, I was a heavy participant in Blog Chat Association Chat. And back when I was in the trade show industry, running a trade show and doing marketing and PR and sales and sponsorships for that, I participated very regularly in Expo Chat. And talked about that a little bit, about how that kind of works. This is what I had mentioned. This is from several years ago, but when I was a heavy participant again in the Expo Chat, as I had mentioned, was often quoted. This is just one of the articles that I appeared in with a quote that I had given around vendors and sponsors on the trade show floor. So let's take a look at a real account. We're going to go into my account. And I'm going to walk you through this just a little bit. I don't want this to be too long. When you are setting up your personal Twitter account, or you are going to start managing this for a client, go in and make sure that you have optimized their profile. My profile is not super optimized now, and I need to make changes to that. But just like you do on your LinkedIn header or your Facebook header, you can put your website link up here. You know, you can change this out every day if you want to, and I would highly encourage that. You want to say a little bit about yourself in a way that is straight to the point about what you do, but if you can inject just a little personality in there, because you want to be someone that people think, oh, well, they look like they might be a little fun or snarky or smart or whatever it is you want to come across as. When I was mentioning to you that your handle, and mine is at Joe, that's my initials, at J-O-Uri, but my name is Joe at 8 Arms. So both of these things appear in my tweets. If you'll see right here, here is a tweet that I just used. And again, you have about 180 characters here, I believe, and you want to make this as interesting as you can. Much like Instagram, you are somewhat limited in what you can do here. I would encourage you to do a summary link here, just like you do in Instagram. So let's go here. This is going to be your Twitter home, and this is going to tell you what's trending. And these are trends for me, meaning that I'm a big sports fan, NFL usually. And so a lot of what will show up in the general trends just for me are going to be things that are related to searches I've already made. This is my feed. And again, think of this a little bit like Instagram. Okay. You have an explore feature, much like Instagram. And this is all hashtag driven based on other things that I followed. Notifications. This is if someone has mentioned me, or if there are things that it thinks I'd be interested in, if someone's retweeted something, if there's someone that I follow, but again, when I have not been on Twitter tons lately, it will pop up. So this is what your notifications are going to look like. Messages, this is your direct message. Now, I had a customer service issue that I tweeted to SiteGround, and they replied to me. Same thing with plows and mows. And then these are just tweets, some of them personal, some of them, you know, just other things. You can see that I was much more active back in the day. Bookmarks, haven't added any of those. List. This, again, I would say is probably one of the more popular and important things for you all to pay attention to, both personally and for your clients. I set some of these up as a test. I have a client that I've just taken on in ideation in terms of corporate ideas. Selfie secrets. I follow people now even that are involved in Operation Smile. Digital companies I follow, and some exhibit stuff I follow. So you can make lists this way. Typically when I'm working with the client, I go into their account and I make lists there, since that's where we initiate most of their tweets. Some other things here. Let's talk about moments. Moments is like what I talked about with your Instagram stories. So you just click on the moments, you come up here and you click on this little lightning, and it will let you set a new cover and add any tweets. And the cool thing about this is it doesn't have to just be your tweets. It can be tweets by other people that you can add. So really cool thing that you can use that can show people, because those are public, show people things that you're interested in. And if you organize those, as I have now gone back and started to do, on certain topics, like I have one about basic SEO. So anytime I tweet out lists about SEO, they'll go there. If they're inspirational tweets that, you know, my friends in SMU have, I'll have theirs under moments. So those are really up to you. So I hope that this gives you a little bit of information about how it works and what you can use it for. Some of the questions people ask me when we talk about Twitter is, how do I know who to follow? When you set up your Twitter account, and you can actually go back in and ask Twitter to do this, it will let you import contacts to see if you can match any of your contacts up with a Twitter account. It will show you friends of yours. What is really good to do, kind of like you do on Facebook, is if I started following, Rachel Pedersen, and I wasn't sure who to follow, I would look and see who Rachel followed, because those are going to be industry people that are smart. They're going to be probably SMU people I know. That's a good place to start. So the good thing about Twitter is you can search people by hashtag that you might want to follow. You can, anytime you look at someone's profile, and again, this is public, if you come here, it will tell you who you can look and see who I'm following. And so then, yes, I'm a Seahawks fan. If you aren't sure who you might want to follow, maybe you would want to follow some of these people. Okay. Who's following me? These are people that are following me. Maybe or maybe not people you're interested in following, but again, these are places that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. If I wanted to follow some people and I kind of wasn't sure, like, oh, I think I want to find some new cool people. Who do I want to follow? Let's say maybe I would just come over here and put, content SEO, because that's a topic I'm interested in right now. And it would show me the latest tweets that had that as a hashtag. And then I might look and say, wow, okay, on technical SEO and on-site SEO rarely enough. That sounds like an article that I might be interested in. So I can say, gosh, I love your article. Okay. I can, reply to their article. I can retweet their article. I'm sorry, that's the comment. I can retweet. I can just, like their article. I can put their article, bookmark it. I can copy a link to it, or I can send them a direct message. So this is just a good way to kind of check out and see what you want to do. I have to tell you that nothing amuses me more than following hashtags for certain events as they are happening. As a personal aside, I will say that my husband is a NASCAR fan. Having grown up outside of Charlotte, I don't care about it. But oh my goodness, the people watching those things are hilarious. And I often will follow Twitter because there are people who hack into the radios of a lot of these drivers, and I will be able to, and they'll tweet about what they're hearing. And I'll turn to my husband, I'll say, so-and-so, I think's, getting ready to get in a wreck with somebody. They're mad at him. Well, why do you think that? And then next thing you know, boom, well, because I saw it on Twitter. I love pro football. And my husband and I often like to be the first one to tell each other the scoop. And if there's a certain topic that you like, follow it on Twitter, because you will be the first to know. Almost all news is broken first on Twitter. I will say that. So I hope that this has given you a few ideas about what Twitter is, how it works, how you can use it for your clients. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Twitter is a great platform for relationship building, especially in B2B businesses, for listening to what your competitors are saying to people, what people are saying to and about them, for places for you to go get great education, places for you to find partnerships, speakers, to get speaking gigs, to find new authors, to find new programs. Twitter is, in my opinion, probably the perfect platform if you have the time to really put into it. If you are going to be paid to manage someone's Twitter account and you are going to do it right and well, you will need to charge them a decent amount of money, because again, to do it right and to do it well is pretty time intensive. So make sure that you plan that accordingly. So I hope this helps you guys, and thanks for watching.